It is so wonderful to be here with you all in Chicago and to be joined by so many of the city's incredible scientists and researchers and your very own Governor, J.B. Pritzker. Thank you for being here. Mr. Governor, I saw a local headline that touted you as a geek for quantum computing. So I don't know how many of your constituents have that as a top priority, but it is mine. So I am so thrilled to be here and sharing space with you. For science nerds like us, today is epic. And not just because of the news that we're here to share today. Oops, there we go. But how today's news and the work that we're doing here connects and builds upon the history of Illinois' involvement and incredible contributions to science. It was here in Chicago in 1942 that the scientists at the University of Chicago, started the first self-sustaining nuclear reaction. In 1960, it was where programmers at the University of Illinois built Plato, the first shared computer-based education system, which eventually created the first email system and then the first online community. Our family says thank you. And more recently, here in Chicago, researchers at Northwestern have been making incredible breakthroughs in research in ALS, helping us better understand what causes cells to degenerate, and then what therapies we can use to treat this incredibly elusive disease. Like, incredible that we get to build upon that community here at the Zuckerberg Biohub. And so more breakthroughs are going to be on the horizon, because today we're here to celebrate the brand new research center where these three historic institutions come together as the Zuckerberg Biohub Chicago. So this city, its individuals, its institutions have changed the way farmers reap, manufacturers make, surgeons operate, how athletes compete, we will compute, and builders build. And the Chicago Biohub is going to change the way our world deals with disease. Or to put it another way, it will help scientists do their part in ending disease as we know it. So over the last century, we've made incredible progress learning how to identify and treat some diseases, often one by one, often by chance. The work that we hope to contribute to over this next century, we believe that if we can understand in precise detail how cells and organs work together to keep us healthy, we can open many, many doors to new ways of seeing and actioning how we can cure, prevent, and manage all disease. But these breakthroughs will require us to break down laboratory walls. And that's the basis of the Biohub. When Mark and I founded CZI, we knew there were major gaps in scientific knowledge of what actually causes us to get sick at the most basic level in our bodies. Two things immediately became clear. First, in order to actually make progress in filling those gaps in knowledge, in order to help fill those gaps in knowledge, we would need to strengthen and increase the resolution of our most basic understanding of cellular biology. Mark always says, how can you debug the code if you can't examine all the lines of code? So to understand the code that keeps our bodies healthy and the errors that cause disease, we need new tools to observe, measure, and analyze biological processes throughout the human body. Second, it became clear that in order to fill those gaps, science needed to happen in a different way. As it stood, we have great scientists dotting the country and the world like pushpins on a map. But these efforts were often duplicative and even competitive. So to achieve our goal, we needed the work to be collaborative. So we dreamed up a high-tech space where we'd bring together scientists and other experts across disciplines and institutions so we could investigate together the biggest mysteries in biology and medicine. And when you have great people and you work hard, dreams can come true. So we launched our first biohub in San Francisco in 2016, and we called it our biggest bet in our work in science. In a bit, you'll hear more from Steve, our head of science, about what we've achieved over the past 7 years. In a nutshell, don't live in suspense. The work has paid off. Our work has cracked open a whole new realm of scientific knowledge. We're learning more than ever before about our cells, where many diseases first manifest and how they spread across tissues and organs. Our success in San Francisco has made it clear that we had to scale up the biohub model and to get more experts working together on cellular research. So we launched the search. We launched the Biohub Network search and looking for our second biohub. We asked research teams to link up across institutions and submit proposals of what they would do if their city had a biohub. And the response was immediate and immense. We had 58 applications from 172 institutions from across the country. There were brilliant, path-breaking proposals of how the world's top research minds would study cells and diseases in new ways. I wish we could stand here and read line by line the application from these 3 universities, Northwestern, University of Chicago, and University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, because it is riveting. It reflected the expertise of the teams, but also the excellence that this city is known for, the tenacity, the grit, and not incidentally, the enthusiasm of this city's leadership. One of my favorite things that I've learned about Chicago and the community here is that Governor Pritzker showed up at the applicant interview day as the top cheerleader of the team presenting their case for a biohub. And today is a great example of the staying power of this city's enthusiasm for cutting-edge science. And we're joined here today with Chicago Deputy Mayor Kenya Merritt, Alderman Walter Burnett Jr., and university leaders Robert Jones, Michael Schill, and Paul Avisados, amongst many others who are committed to making this work happen. And one last thing, the part of the application that sealed the deal for me is a very important person that set this application apart from all other applications, and is a key person, Dr. Shana Kelly. I knew you were a phenomenal chemist, a biomedical engineer, a businesswoman, and now the president of the Chicago Biohub. And I just have to say, she works lightning fast, guys. I got to see some of the science, the space, everything's moving. There's like, I don't know what happened. Like the day we called her, she was like, I already got started. That's, I'm certain that's what has had to happen. So Shana and Steve are going to tell you more about what the work has been here today. I got to see a sneak peek of what's happening. You know, I would have to say that it's months in, the work is exciting, thrilling, inspirational, and so much more to come. And you're going to push the boundaries of science and engineering and bring us all closer to ending disease. And with that, I'd like to pass the mic to the governor. Everyone please welcome Governor Pritzker.
Well, thank you so much, Priscilla, and good morning, everyone. It's great to be here this morning. What an honor it is to have you here, Priscilla, leading the charge. And of course, we had that terrific tour just, in the last half an hour. And in a very short period of time, I wasn't able to fully geek out, I have to admit, but I got an awful lot out of it. We are really proud to have been selected from among dozens of applications from places all across this nation. We are just confident enough here in Chicago that we are the best place in the nation for CZ Biohub Network. and that confidence was confirmed. So thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. CZ BioHub Chicago has the capacity to revolutionize our understanding of the fundamental design rules for human biology, laying the groundwork for trailblazing advances in our ability to treat and prevent chronic inflammatory diseases, from cancer to autoimmune and neurodegenerative conditions. That's a big deal, and we are at the center of it. This is quite literally life-changing work. And the state of Illinois is so proud to be your partner in this endeavor. We've committed funding and support from across the state, and that includes, importantly, the collaborative efforts of 3 of our state's most esteemed research institutions under the leadership of U of I's Chancellor Robert Jones, Northwestern University President Mike Schill, and University of Chicago President Paul Alivisatos. I want to share my sincere gratitude not only to them, but to their university teams who've been so intimately involved in this. Their work together leading up to this moment and going forward to establish and promote this important CZ BioHub Chicago is going to set a precedent for great things ahead. This achievement would also not have been possible without the support of the City of Chicago and of World Business Chicago, and really so many leaders in Chicago that have offered to help and been engaged in this endeavor. And of course, we're beaming with pride about Chicago BioHub's President Shana Kelly, who brought her unprecedented expertise in cell research to Northwestern University back in 2021, and who will lead and shape the ways that this center unleashes scientific discovery for years to come. And we thank you so much, Shana. So I wouldn't be me if I didn't brag a little bit about Illinois. Doubling down on our legacy of innovation has been a key priority of mine, and it's why I prioritized the new billion-dollar innovation hub called Discovery Partners Institute with the University of Illinois, and why we became the first state to make a major investment in quantum engineering in the build-out of the Chicago Quantum Exchange. We've also incentivized the building of wet lab space to increase access for new burgeoning biotech companies. There are just a few, those are just a few examples of the new paradigm that we are establishing here in Illinois. We're focusing on long-term investments that attract great talent, capital, and cutting-edge science that will transform our state's economic landscape and will help us lead the nation to greater prosperity. We're investing in groundbreaking research that drives the future, and we're educating the workforce to help get us there. We're making it easier and lowering costs for companies that want to come here and do business in Illinois, and we're doing it all while offering high quality of life for employees and their families of every background, and protecting their rights to live the life that they choose to live for themselves. So to anyone in the room who needs to hear this, and anyone who's watching on video, I want to say that whoever you are, Illinois is a welcoming place to you, and I hope you will join us. Today, our state's rising leadership on the national and global tech stage is clearer than ever. CZ BioHub Chicago is a beacon to so many others and a prime example of the growing nexus of partnerships and innovation hubs and public and private universities and national laboratories, international research programs that are fueling the next generation of economic vitality for communities across our state. And CZ BioHub is helping us lead a next generation of discovery for the world. With that, it is my great pleasure to turn it over to a man who's driving revolutionary change and the revolutionary nature of this cross-institution, cross-disciplinary research center, and that's the head of science for CZI, and that's Steve Quake. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Governor, for welcoming us to Chicago. Priscilla didn't mention the other reason we knew Chicago would be the right place for a biohub. It's that great Bulls dynasty of the 90s, which won 6 NBA championships, right? MJ, Scotty, Phil, amazing team that set the bar so high for achievement. We figured making breakthroughs is just second nature to everyone here. Shayna, the bar's high. I want to say that Chicago is already becoming a part of the Biohub's DNA. We have a president from Northwestern. We have a new board member from University of Chicago. And I guess that leaves me to represent Urbana-Champaign. All right, here we go. Yeah, right? You guys are going to have to make all 3 university logos for me at some point. But, I'll tell you, I actually first visited UIUC when I was 2 years old. My uncle was a civil engineering student. I got to ride in the concrete canoe that he built as part of his design project. And it was a ton of fun. I like to think that that sort of set me on a journey in science and engineering, which is continuing to this day. And it's great to welcome you all to the family. I first became involved in Mark and Priscilla's philanthropy as the founding co-president of the first Biohub in San Francisco. My partner in that endeavor, Joe DeRisi, is now carrying on the leadership of that Biohub, and he's here today to celebrate. Joe and I had a vision that we would partner with the great universities of the Bay Area, Stanford, UCSF, and Berkeley, in order to take on large scientific problems that the universities wouldn't do on their own. I want to share a little bit about that work and give you a sense of the kinds of breakthroughs that a Biohub team could make. At the SF Biohub, we created the first whole organism cell atlases of fly, mouse, lemur, and human. These references provide molecular definitions of the majority of cell types in the body and are essential companions to the genome that explain how all the parts of the genome are used in different cell types. This was fantastic team science. It involved collaborators at all 3 universities and at the Biohub, and the papers at the end of the day had more than 150 authors on them. Our group leaders at the Biohub also develop other fantastic resources which help us understand the mysteries of the cell, including OpenCell, which is a map of the locations of more than 1,000 proteins within the cell, as well as their binding partners. And our research in infectious disease has led to many discoveries about the epidemiology of novel viruses, and as well as the immune response to infection. When we first announced the SF Biohub, I got calls from my academic colleagues all over the country saying, when can we get a Biohub for our city? My response was, hold on, let us just prove that it's going to work here in San Francisco, and then maybe we'll see if Mark and Priscilla would be interested in expanding the model. And so we're here today to celebrate that, the growth from a single Biohub as a regional research institute into an organization with national reach. We did this through an open competition, and Priscilla shared some of the details. I'm so excited that Chicago won the competition, and we love the scientific proposal, we love the amazing faculty, but there was another aspect that set the university apart, or the proposal apart, and it was the commitment of the 3 university presidents. And I'd like to just take a moment to acknowledge that and thank them for support. It was clear that Presidents Schill and Alvasados and Chancellor Jones had a strong commitment to working together across institutions, mutual respect, and a great working relationship already in place, and a willingness to stretch to create something amazing. Their involvement in the competition was your secret weapon here. Gentlemen, please stand. Let's give it up. So now I'd like to just say a few words about CZI, which has sort of a 3-pronged strategy to reach our mission of cure, manage, prevent all human disease. As you've seen, we create research institutes which do research. We also fund scientific research. And our grants program has enabled researchers in more than 30 countries to work on high-risk projects and things that aren't ready for federal support yet. The program has been remarkably successful. And as sort of one example of that, the publications supported by our work are cited at a far higher rate than those funded from conventional sources, and we're very proud to see that. The third part is that we build open source software to accelerate science. And as an extension of this, you may have seen our recent announcement that CZI is now building a GPU cluster to train the AI models, which will help us understand the rich data sets coming out of our institutes. When it's up and running, it's going to be one of the world's largest clusters for nonprofit scientific research. And we hope that the models we develop on this cluster will give us amazing new insight into how cells work and what changes when you have mutations, take medicine, and how all that affects your body. The Chicago's BioHub work is going to be crucial to that effort and to advancing our goals as an institution. Shane and her team are going to develop technologies to instrument human tissues and study a major driver of disease, inflammation, and I'll let her tell you about it right now. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much, Steve, Priscilla, San Francisco BioHub partners, and everyone at CZI. Couldn't have gotten this off the ground without all of you. Thank you, Governor Pritzker, for your commitment to what we're building here and for really making this day happen. It all started with you. Chicago BioHub is literally a dream come true. It really is. For a scientist like me, running a freestanding research institute, empowered to do high-risk, high-reward research, it's just game-changing. And I am so excited. This is just an incredible opportunity. Priscilla and Steve talked about what we can achieve with this type of cross-institute, multidisciplinary approach. And we will achieve really extraordinary things because we're really breaking out of the mold of how research has been traditionally done. We'll be able to do it very differently here. And there's also a really important other outcome of the work that we do and how we'll do it. And it's inspiring scientists across the country and around the world through the science that we do and the way that we do it. The San Francisco BioHub has motivated countless institutions to think bigger. And I am absolutely confident that the Chicago BioHub will do the same. As Steve mentioned, and Priscilla here in Chicago, we are going to start with studying really the basic factors that drive inflammation. Inflammation is an important part of how the human body works. We need it to stay healthy, but it can also get out of control. It can become chronic. It can make cells or tissues diseased. This can lead to pain and major issues, and sometimes medicine cannot turn inflammation around. About half of human deaths every year can be attributed to inflammation, inflammation-related diseases, heart disease, stroke, cancer, kidney disease, neurodegenerative diseases. These all start with inflammation. So all of us here at the Chicago BioHub believe that we can better understand these diseases and what gets them started. And that will help us to cure, prevent, and manage them. So we really don't know what causes inflammation to shift into overdrive. We have to get at that if we want to prevent human disease. We want to understand what happens in cells. For example, if a patient with multiple sclerosis all of a sudden has a flare-up, why does that happen? What is driving it? How does inflammation play a part? Or when we see people infected with SARS-CoV-2 and then all of a sudden there's inflammation in the heart or the lungs or the brain and driving things like long COVID, why does that happen and how can we turn it around? So we're going to do a deep dive into the fundamentals of inflammation. We're going to study how it starts, why it persists, why it gets worse. And we really want to learn how to turn it around, how to treat it, or how to prevent it entirely. But that requires completely new technology. We need new ways to get at this. And what we need is a technology that will allow us to make precise measurements in 3 dimensions, really watching cells talk to one another, watching molecules move around in tissues and driving inflammation. And the technology that we need, it doesn't exist yet. And while I'm sure you know what comes next, this is what we're going to build. This is what the BioHub is here to do. In this very building, scientists and engineers, as a part of our team, are going to build miniaturized sensors, sampling probes. We're going to embed those into living tissue systems or bioengineered tissue. This technology and this approach will allow us to watch the very early events in inflammation. Again, at the molecular level, at the cellular level. We can see when a cell starts to take a turn as a result of inflammation and become diseased and really identify cells that drive out of control inflammation. And we think that the technologies that we develop, the applications will go far beyond inflammation and can be applied to many other systems. My family and I have been really enjoying getting to know Chicago over the past 2 years. We came for Northwestern, and we fell in love with the city once we got here. Chicago is just an extraordinary place to live and work. And even better, now for the last few months, I've been with an amazing team getting the BioHub off the ground. And the team is everything here. We are assembling a team, the best and brightest from Chicago. We have an incredible talent pool in this city. So I wouldn't say it's been easy, but we've had just so many resources, so many amazing people to look at bringing into the BioHub to help us with the important work that I mentioned. And I can tell you without hesitation that folks in this city and at this BioHub, we're all on a mission to put Chicago on the map in biomedicine. We are so excited to get in the lab. We actually are already in the lab. As Priscilla said, like as soon as I got, any word that this was happening, it was just time to think about how to make it happen. And so we're just so excited about the work. We're so excited about the approach, the opportunity, the support from CZI. It's just, as I said, a real opportunity of a lifetime. And we hope, our aspirations are to create technologies and make discoveries that can help millions of patients. That's really what we're here to do. We also want to learn how to train powerful AI algorithms to really power what we can learn about biology. And we also want to inspire others to take on even bolder science. So I want to thank everyone who's contributed to what we've been able to do so far, and especially our university partners, Northwestern, University of Chicago, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and the CZ BioHub Network and CZI, and I really thank them for putting their faith in me to help lead this forward. I want to give a special thanks to Jeff Hubble, Gene Robinson, Rasha Bashir, who are the advisory committee to the BioHub and are really helping me drive it forward, and I can't thank them enough. And I want to recognize our awesome team of new hires at the Chicago BioHub and thank them for joining me on this new adventure. And Steve, I may not be able to jump as high as Michael Jordan, but I'm going to take us the distance. Okay, thank you everyone for the warm welcome that you've given us today here at the Chan Zuckerberg BioHub Chicago. Thank you all for coming. We have a small gift for all of you, first of its kind. This will be, in the archives for the future. So what we're going to ask you to do is kind of all proceed out to the elevators, grab a water bottle. Again, we are so excited that you were here today. We're going to make room for the media to kind of come in and move on to the next phase of things. So again, thank you so much and have a great rest of the day.
Happy to take any questions from members of the media. Okay. There are a lot of things to ask, though, that you should, I hope, focus on. Yeah.
Can you tell us in what way, if any, your office is coordinating with the mayor's office on his trip to the border? And secondly, are you going to send a team? And I guess the other part of that is, can you speak to the value that your administration got from 2 previous trips to the border?
So let me first say that we are in constant communication, and I mean multiple times a day, between our offices and the mayor's office and his departments with regard to the challenge of the asylum seekers coming in large numbers to the city, and have been really since he took office. We were only made aware that he had a plan to go to the border yesterday, I think, when maybe the public was made aware. Maybe it was a few minutes before, but and we've been assisting in lots of different ways with personnel, with dollars and so on, to help the city along the way. But we certainly have provided insights that our teams have gathered over the last 13 months from visiting the border, from talking to the NGOs on the ground, because they really are the ones who have the daily expertise and knowledge. So, and we'll assist him in any way that he needs in his trip.
What did you all learn down there that was helpful to your administration that they might be able to learn from going?
Well, it's important to develop relationships, one-on-one relationships with the folks who are on the ground doing the work in Texas. I'm not talking about the members of the Abbott administration or the politicians who are making these decisions, these dehumanizing positions and decisions. I'm talking about the folks who are actually doing the work of feeding, clothing, providing shelter for people on the ground, and who are acting in some ways as, as a hub, transfer hub, let's say, when people decide that they're going to get on a bus, or when the governor or a mayor is, encouraging them to get on a bus to somewhere. So I think having the direct relationships, being able to talk. We heard, for example, a couple of days ago, the reason that that there were multiple buses coming, that we, more than ever before, is because we talked to those NGOs, and they were telling us, the bus companies are being hired to provide more buses on any given day, and the likelihood is you're going to see an uptick and so on. So we get a lot of info in that regard. And of course, we want to talk to them to make sure that they're not loading people onto buses who have severe illnesses and other things. And they're doing their best, those nonprofits, but again, having a direct relationship and being able to talk to them is important. So that's why the mayor, I think that's a valuable trip, probably.
Could you tell us about where your thoughts are on the wall and how Biden's decision to go back and build this wall that originally he had not benefited?
Well, you're focusing on a wall, but this is really more a comprehensive discussion about border security. And he's been in favor from the very beginning and for a long time in his career of border security, but also having significant immigration in this country. You've seen that, the projections that actually, without immigration, that we would have a declining population in the United States, which, by the way, would also lead to a declining economy in the United States. So. Well, again, you're focusing on one aspect, which I understand, but I just want you to understand also that it's not just a wall that provides border security. There are lots of other aspects to it. And so making sure that we're enhancing all of those while also working for comprehensive immigration reform, because he's not doing this in isolation. He's also telling Republicans that if you want to come to the table, now is the time. We're willing to do this if you're willing to do that. Yeah, I don't want to point fingers. There are lots of different kinds of NGOs. Look at Chicago and how many different types and different focus areas. And frankly, they each have a different attitude. That's the same thing that happens among independent NGOs in Texas. And you've seen that we get buses from Laredo, we get buses from El Paso, we get, and so on. And you can imagine that they're all operating in their areas somewhat independently. So I wouldn't point any fingers. I think that many of them are just trying to manage what is a humanitarian crisis for Texas, as it is when you send people to Chicago, where we have a limit, as does every state, to the amount of housing and support that can be provided. FYI, there are 50 states in the United States, 48 in the continental United States. There are an awful lot of states that could manage to absorb and assist in this humanitarian effort, but as you can see, they're only sending those buses to blue states and democratically controlled cities.
What is the plan for if this increase continues at the rate it is now, potentially doubling the number of people who arrive up in that course in the next couple weeks? What is the plan for housing people when they arrive? Because clearly capacity is stretched as if, what are you and what is the city doing to?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a challenge I think the city has been facing since the beginning. We don't do city planning at the state level. This is, a question best directed to the city. Meanwhile, as they have developed plans and as they've implemented them, we've been there in support. For example, we have DHS, Department of Human Services employees from the state working at the shelters in the city of Chicago to alleviate some of the burden upon the city. And that's just one aspect of the way that we're supporting them.
Is there an opportunity for supplemental appropriation on migrants similar to what was done last year? I mean, revenues are coming kind of strong in the first part of the fiscal year. Is that something you'd look at again, maybe at the end of the year?
As you know, we balanced the budget for this year, and it isn't as if we're coming in with, enormous surpluses. And we always have things that are, an opportunity for us to be of assistance. This is not something where we have hundreds of millions of dollars to support, but remember, we've gone above and beyond. We've taken some of the programs that have pre-existed this crisis and sort of adjusted them to help with the migrant crisis. Let me give you one example. Our rental assistance program, which is very important for helping people that just fall just under the ability to pay their rent. We have provided some of that rental assistance money, which wasn't originally intended to be about asylum seekers, for this challenge. Yes. Oh, good.
Hi, I'm Elaine from staff.
Hi.
I have two questions. One is, what, if any, requirements has the state given that's attached to the funding for the BioHub? And secondly, you talked about how you hope that this is going to help with kind of revitalizing the biotech economy locally. Is your response to potential concerns about the benefits of the BioHub not being distributed equally, whether it be employment or research opportunities, or the benefits that come from the research not being distributed equitably to the local community?
So I'm not sure. Let's see, 3 questions, I think, in there. Let me correct your language a little, if I may, or address it. Anyway, I wouldn't call it a revitalized biotech community. It's actually been a burgeoning biotech community here in Illinois. So, and this is truly a catalyst for reaching a whole new level. As you know, a lot of this happens in the research laboratories, which, there's certainly an effort in STEM education and in our universities to attract people of all backgrounds into that field. But I wouldn't say that in the research laboratory is the place where we're going to, see the equity change that we all want to see. Always an effort to get there, though, to be clear. The dollars that the state is putting in are infrastructure dollars. So when you look around this space, part of the reason that this space is so capable of helping with the research and the gathering of scientists is because of state infrastructure dollars. So we're not engaged in the funding of the research itself, but rather in making it possible for them to choose Chicago by diverting money that they would have had to spend on this back into research and the lab and the hiring of great people. I don't know if others want to react to any other aspect of this. Yeah.
So the BioHub, we're going to be doing technology development, highly innovative research. I'm the founder of 4 life sciences startups and have kind of worked through that pipeline of discovery to commercialization. And I can absolutely see those kinds of discoveries happening at the BioHub. I have 2 companies that are incubating now in Chicago, and this is an amazing place for startups. And to get more startups, we need more great discoveries. And those will be coming, they'll continue to come from our great universities, but now we also have the BioHub to catalyze the creation of new startups.
One more question and then we're done. How many local jobs will this generate? Will it largely be from universities that the scientists coming in from that, or will there be hiring locally for this?
Yeah, so the BioHub is a physical research institute with its own staff. So to get started, we're hiring about 50 FTEs, scientists and engineers, to get the research programs kicked off, and we'll take it from there.
And that's locally?
Locally, yes, in this building.
On top of that, how do you prioritize what disease you're going to be looking at, and is diabetes in there?
Diabetes is in there. There's an immune system link, certainly, for diabetes. We're really trying to be disease agnostic as we start, though. We're looking at inflammation, which is a driver of many, many diseases. So we're trying to look at those very early events that are key across a spectrum of diseases.